February 2025, Ukraine's power grid 98% destroyed. Moscow launches the final attack. Then, from 30,000 feet above the Black Sea, an American RC-135W Rivet Joint intercepts the kill signal. What happens next will decide the fate of Eastern Europe. For 3 years, Russia's campaign against Ukraine hasn't just been about territory, it's been about survival. In modern warfare, survival is synonymous with electricity. Since October 2022, Russian Kalibr cruise missiles and Shaite-136 kamikaze drones have systematically dismantled Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Every major thermal plant, every critical substation, every backup transformer depot. The strategy is as brutal as it is effective. Freeze the population, cripple the economy, and break the national will to fight. By January 2025, Ukraine is operating on 11% of its pre-war electrical capacity. Kyiv experiences rolling blackouts lasting 18 hours a day. Hospitals rely on diesel generators that are rapidly running out of fuel. Water purification systems are failing. In the dead of winter, temperatures plummet to -15 degrees Celsius. This isn't just military pressure, it is an existential threat. And then, intelligence agencies detect something terrifying. Russia is preparing Operation Temnota, Operation Darkness. This isn't another conventional strike, something worse. A coordinated cyber-kinetic attack designed to trigger a total, irreversible blackout across every remaining Ukrainian power facility simultaneously. The clock is ticking. The United States is about to make a move that will either save Ukraine or trigger a direct confrontation with the Kremlin. February 3, 2025, 0340 hours. Black Sea, 23 nautical miles from Crimean airspace. An RC-135W Rivet Joint reconnaissance aircraft from the 55th Wing, call sign JAKE-12, holds a racetrack pattern in international airspace. Inside, 17 electronic warfare specialists monitor Russian military frequencies with equipment so sensitive it can detect a localized signal from 200 miles away. At exactly 0347 hours, Signals Intelligence, Signal Officer Captain Melissa Huang picks up an encrypted burst transmission from Sevastopol Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters. The encryption protocol is SVR classified. This is state security, not standard military command. Within 90 seconds, NSA algorithms at Fort Meade identify the signature. It's a remote access trigger being transmitted to malware. It's already embedded in Ukrainian SCADA systems, the industrial control software that manages power grids. This is the activation signal for Operation Temnota. Captain Huang's team doesn't hesitate. Using the NALQ-172V2 electronic countermeasures suite, they deploy a targeted jamming burst on the precise frequency. The Russian signal is drowned in white noise. The kill command never reaches its targets, for now. But Jake-12's commander Lieutenant Colonel David Brennan knows this is just the opening move. The Russians will recalibrate. Within 12 minutes, Flash Critic message, the highest priority intelligence alert in the U.S. military, hits the Pentagon's National Military Command Center. Subject: imminent cyber-kinetic attack on Ukrainian critical infrastructure. The president is woken at 4:02 hours East Coast time, February 3, 2025, 11 o'clock hours. The Pentagon, Washington, D.C., the Situation Room is packed. The Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and Cybercom Commander General Sarah Nakamura are present. On a secure video, Link is the commander of U.S. European Command, General Christopher Walton, calling from Stuttgart. The briefing is grim. General Nakamura presents the assessment. Russian GRU Unit 74455 Sandworm has infiltrated at least 6 remaining Ukrainian substations with modified black energy malware. They've also deployed Indestroyer 2, specifically designed to trigger cascading failures in electrical circuits. If they execute this attack, Ukraine will lose 100% power capacity. Restoration could take months. In winter conditions, civilian casualties could reach 6 figures. The problem is that the malware is already resident inside Ukrainian systems. Jamming the activation signal buys time, maybe 24 to 72 hours, but it doesn't remove the infection, the CIA director interjects. Our sources indicate Russia is coordinating the cyber attack with a simultaneous kinetic strike. 40 Kalibr cruise missiles and 60 Geran-2 drones are targeting the last operational substations in Lviv, at Rivne and Vinnytsia. They want physical and digital destruction at the same moment. Total annihilation. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs leans forward. Mr. President, if Ukraine loses all power in February, the government could collapse within 2 weeks. This is checkmate. The president asks the question everyone is thinking. What are our options? General Nakamura responds. We have cyber mission force teams standing by. We can enter those systems and purge the malware. But it requires direct access to Ukrainian networks. If Russian intelligence detects our operators, they'll know it was us. That is an act of cyber warfare. Moscow will respond. The president makes the call. Do it. Get our cyber teams in. Quietly, coordinate with Ukrainian SSO, and get every available air defense asset into position. Everywhere the Russians want darkness, we're going to make sure they fail. February 4th, 2025. 0200 hours. Lviv, Western Ukraine. A U.S. cyber mission force team, operating under the cover designation Task Force Voltage, arrives in Lviv via an unmarked C-130 from Ramstein Air Base. The team consists of 12 operators, 6 offensive cyber specialists, 4 defensive analysts, and 2 SIGINT experts. Their mission: penetrate Ukrainian power company networks, identify the Russian malware, and neutralize it without leaving American fingerprints. Working from a hardened facility beneath a Ukrainian military base, the hunt begins. They are looking for industrier to a sophisticated framework capable of sending direct commands to circuit breakers. It mimics legitimate control signals, making it nearly invisible to automated defenses. Senior Warrant Officer Jake Ramirez, a veteran of the Cyber National Mission Force, locates the first payload at 05 for 7 hours. It's embedded in the Lviv primary substation's SCADA network, disguised as a firmware update. Got you, Ramirez mutters. But removing it isn't simple. The malware has a dead man's switch. If it detects unauthorized tampering, it triggers immediately. The team has to defuse it like a digital bomb. Using custom extraction tools, they isolate the malware, simulate its environment, and surgically delete it. 1 down, 5 to go. February 5th, 2025, 18:30 hours. Sevastopol, Crimea. Russian Southern Military District Command receives confirmation. American electronic warfare aircraft are operating continuous patrols over the Black Sea. Their signals intelligence teams detect anomalous activity inside Ukrainian networks that doesn't match Ukrainian capabilities. The Americans are inside. General Dmitry Kuznetsov, commander of Russia's Strategic Rocket Forces Cyber Division, receives a clear directive from Moscow. Accelerate the timeline. If the Americans are purging the malware, launch the attack before they finish. At 19:15 hours, Russian forces begin fueling Kolib missiles aboard 3 Kilo-class submarines. Long-range Tu-95 bombers at Engels Air Base are loaded with Ki-101 cruise missiles. Simultaneously, over 100 Shat-136 drones are transported to forward launch sites. The attack is scheduled for 0400 hours, February 7th. 36 hours remain. February 6, 2025, 3 o'clock hours Lviv. Task Force Voltage is exhausted. They've been operational for 52 hours straight. 4 payloads neutralized to remain. An NSA intercept confirms the worst. Massive force mobilization. Ramirez and his team push harder. At 07 to 1 hours, they locate the 5th payload in Rivet. It is more sophisticated, featuring triple-layered encryption and multiple failsafes. It takes 11 hours to crack. At 18:34 hours, they purge it. 1 left. The final payload in Venetia has evolved. It's using polymorphic code, constantly changing its signature to evade detection. The team leader calls Fort Meade. We need the zero-day toolkit. Authorization code Whiskey Tango 7. Fort Meade hesitates. The zero-day toolkit contains classified exploits worth millions weapons reserved for the highest priority operations. Using it means burning capabilities the intelligence community has spent years developing. At 2,247 hours, using an NSA-developed exploit that attacks the malware's core replication engine, Task Force Voltage finally destroys the last payload. The Russian cyber weapon is dead, but the kinetic attack is still coming. February 7, 2025, 0358 hours across Ukraine. Air raid sirens wail. From the Black Sea, Russian submarines launch 18 calibers. From Ingalls, Tu-95s release 24 Kh-101s. From the east, 110 Shate drones lift off in waves. Total incoming, 152 aerial threats. Ukraine's air defense network, bolstered by American Patriot and NASAMS systems, springs into action. At 0404 hours, a Patriot battery near Lviv locks onto the first wave. PAC-3 interceptors streak into the sky at Mach 5. NASAMS batteries around Kyiv engage the Shate swarms. AMRAAM missiles detonate in brilliant flashes across the pre-dawn sky. But the sheer volume of the attack is overwhelming. At 0419 hours, 2 Kh-101s evade interception and strike a substation in Rivne. Power across 3 oblasts flickers and dies. Another caliber slams into a transformer depot outside Venetia. However, the 6 critical sites task force voltage protected survive. Because the cyber attack failed, Russia could not coordinate the precise cascading digital failures required for a total collapse. Ukrainian American air defenses intercepted 87% of the incoming threats. The damage is severe, but the grid survives. Barely. February 14, 2025, the White House. The President addresses the world. 2 weeks ago, Russia attempted to plunge Ukraine into total darkness. They failed. Thanks to the bravery of Ukrainian defenders and the support of our professionals, the lights are still on. Let me be clear. The United States will defend our partners against aggression in all its forms, conventional, cyber, or hybrid. In Moscow, the Kremlin issues a terse denial. But intelligence analysts note a significant trend. Russian cyber operations against Ukraine dropped by 60% in the following week. The message was received. This operation reveals the future of warfare. Conflict is no longer just tanks and aircraft. It is zeros and ones. It is malware and missiles working in perfect synchronization. Russia's strategy proved that critical infrastructure is the center of gravity in 21st century war. Destroy it and you don't need to occupy territory. The population collapses inward. But this operation also proved that the United States possesses unmatched cyber capabilities. The ability to detect and neutralize state-sponsored malware in real time. By deploying cyber operators into Ukrainian networks, the U.S. crossed a threshold. Moscow now knows American personnel are actively fighting in the digital domain. Kremlin hardliners are already calling for retaliation against American infrastructure power grids in Texas or financial systems in New York. Does a cyber attack constitute an armed attack under international law? Does NATO Article 5 apply? These are no longer theoretical questions. Ukraine remains in a precarious position. The economy is at 30% capacity, and millions still face rolling blackouts. Russian cyber units are already developing next-generation malware harder to detect and more resilient. The cyber war has merely entered a new phase. Did the U.S. just establish a new doctrine of cyber deterrence? Some experts argue this intervention was necessary to show that hybrid warfare has consequences. Others warn it is dangerous, risking a tit-for-tat escalation that could spiral into a nuclear confrontation. There are no clean answers. Behind the technical analysis are real people, families in unheated apartments, surgeons working by flashlight, children doing homework by candlelight. And in bunkers half a world away, American cyber operators stare at screens. Knowing every line of code they write might save thousands of lives. War is no longer just about the physical. It is about the invisible battle happening in fiber optic cables. Russia tried to turn Ukraine into a frozen wasteland. The U.S. intervened, and the lights stayed on. But the war continues. The question isn't whether Russia will try again as whether the United States will be there to stop it. Will the political will exist to sustain this commitment? And if Russia retaliates against American systems, are we ready for that fight? What do you think? Should the U.S. continue covert cyber operations to defend foreign infrastructure, or are we risking a catastrophic escalation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep dive analysis into the future of warfare, make sure to subscribe. The story of the 21st century is just getting started. See you in the next one.